Welcome back to the Toughest of the Type, the series where we look at trainers of a specific type and see who provides the toughest challenge in their initial battles. And this time around we're looking at the electric type. I feel like there's gonna be some electricity in the air today. To start, let's see what's inherently tough about the electric type itself. Defensively, electric is only weak to ground and resists itself, flying, and steel. Offensively, electric is good against water and flying, but is resisted by grass, itself, and dragon. And ground types are completely immune to all electric moves. But unlike ground types, electric types are immune to paralysis, including from non-electric moves like body slam. Electric types are almost always special attacking glass cannons. RIP physical attacking electric types without a signature move. Thunder Punch is your best option, if even that. Electric types also tend to be incredibly fast. In fact, as of recording, it ranks as 4th for special attack and 3rd for speed, with everything else being near the bottom of the average type base stats. But with all of that covered, let's take a look at the electric type specialists. We start in Kanto, where we meet the very first electric type specialist, the Lightning American, Lieutenant Surge. Though in the Let's Go games, his title was changed. Gone is the Lightning American, now he's just the Lightning Lieutenant. In Red and Blue, Lieutenant Surge's team is Voltorb, Pikachu, and Raichu. Probably the biggest thing you'll struggle against is Thunderbolt. You've likely heard by now about just how terrible Gen 1 learn sets are, but Thunderbolt is by far the best move this early in the game. In Yellow, Lieutenant Surge's team is changed to just one level 28 Raichu. This is to match his anime gym battle, where it was a 1v1 between Ash's Pikachu and Surge's Raichu. But now we get to Lieutenant Surge's Fire Red and Leaf Green team, which is his Red and Blue team again but with altered movesets. Likely for balancing reasons, Surge's TM specialty is now Shockwave, but his Pikachu and Raichu now have the very annoying double team. Now we end with Lieutenant Surge's Let's Go team, which has Magnemite in place of Pikachu, Voltorb having Light Screen, Raichu having Double Kick, and Lieutenant Surge specializes in Thunderbolt again. Now it's actually pretty good that Raichu has Double Kick, since that gives Raichu coverage for the rock ground types of Kanto. But yeah, speaking of ground types, it is notoriously easy to catch a ground type to cheese Lieutenant Surge's gym. If you haven't already caught a Geodude in Mount Moon, Diglett's Cave is right there for a guaranteed ground type encounter. This even includes the possibility of catching a Dugtrio. Some even joke that this is why a Snorlax blocks Diglett's Cave later on, since maybe Surge was tired of getting bodied by a Diglett or Dugtrio. Overall, Lieutenant Surge really shows his battle experience in his gym battles. Next we head to Hoenn to meet the most jolly electric type specialist, the cheerfully electrifying man, Wattson. There's an odd thing about Wattson that you're gonna notice, and it's that in Ruby and Sapphire and their remakes, he's the only Hoenn gym leader to not have any Hoenn Pokemon. In Ruby and Sapphire, Wattson's team is Magnemite, Voltorb, and Magneton. This is also his team in Oras, but we'll go more over that in a bit. Admittedly, this team has some tactics that could be very annoying. Magnemite and Magneton can use the annoying Confusion Paralysis combo, which would effectively leave you with just a 25% chance to attack, and his Voltorb can be extremely dangerous with Self-Destruct. Prior to Gen 5, Self-Destruct actually halved the target's defense, so it was effectively a 400 base power move when Wattson used it. At that point, especially this early in the game, resistances wouldn't matter. Then in Emerald, Wattson got a pretty good buff. He ditched the Magnemite in favor of an Electrike and Manectric, that Manectric being his new ace, and holding a Citrus Berry. While I still think Voltorb would be his most dangerous Pokemon, him now having 2 fully evolved Pokemon is nothing to sneeze at. Now we end with Wattson's Oras team, which is probably his weakest. As said earlier, his Oras team is the same as his Ruby and Sapphire team. However, the moves that made him trouble in Gen 3 are no longer here. Magnemite only has Thunder Wave while Magneton only has Supersonic, so he's less likely to pull off the Confusion Process combo. And the biggest nerf is Voltorb no longer having Self-Destruct, leaving Wattson more vulnerable to ground types than ever. Go in with a Marshtomp and or Geodude and you're untouchable. Regardless, Wattson's Gen 3 team should still be kept in mind. There, he can make your battle with him as annoying as possible. Now we head to Sinnoh to meet the most fatigued electric type specialist, the shining shocking star, Volkner. Volkner is the 8th gym leader of Sinnoh. He even wanted to challenge the Elite Four if the player didn't excite him. Heck, in the anime, he was in the top 30s of the World Coronation series. So let's see if he really does have a champion level team. Volkner's Diamond and Pearl team is Raichu, Ambipom, Octillery, and Luxray. Yep, only half of his team is actually electric type. Welcome to non-platinum Sinnoh. I'm sad. But Volkner not fully being an electric specialist makes this interesting. While there's not much Raichu and Luxray can do to a ground type, Octillery has all 3 of ground's weaknesses in his moveset. And Ambipom has a baton pass set that includes +2 special attack and speed, which might be needed with how underpowered Luxray's moves are. But in platinum, Volkner is fully an electric type specialist. Volkner's platinum team is Jolteon, Raichu, Luxray, and Electivire. Admittedly, this team may be easier to take down than his DP team. The only coverage against ground types is Luxray's Ice Fang, which is the same power as Octillery's Octozooka and Aurora Beam, but the latter two help against water ground types and ground rock types. Finally is Volkner's BDSP team, which is his DP team, but taken to the max. 3 of his 4 Pokemon have ground coverage, and all of his Pokemon have good IVs, EV investment, and helpful held items. Raichu Shuka Berry reduces the power of ground moves for 1 turn, the Chople Berry does the same for Ambipom but for fighting moves, then Octillery's Expert Belt and Luxray's Citrus Berry are always helpful items. Overall, these teams are really good, and as much as I hate to admit it, the non-platinum versions definitely have the advantage here. Next we enter Unova for the most beautiful electric type specialist, the shining beauty, the sparkling bolt of electricity, Elesa. Elesa is a very famous fashion model in the Unova region. She's even the only gym leader to get a new outfit in the sequels. But are her battling skills as good as her looks? Elesa's black and white team is 2 Emolga and Zebstrika. One of the most annoying aspects of this team are the Emolga. Their flying typing makes them immune to ground moves, and while there are decent rock types, they won't resist electric moves. And a ground type is ideal to prevent Elesa's TM specialty, Volt Switch, allowing Elesa's entire team to get a free switch with damage. This can lead to cases where you use a rock move on Emolga, only for Elesa to Volt Switch into Zebstrika and take neutral damage, or Volt Switch into Emolga when you chose a ground move, making the gym battle a guessing game without the right team build. What can make this more annoying is that her Emolga have Pursuit, meaning she can punish you if you try to switch Pokemon. Black 2 and White 2 buff Elesa in some ways but nerfs her in others. Elesa's sequel team is Emolga, Flaffy, and Zebstrika. She still uses Volt Switch but is less unpredictable with just 1 Emolga. That being said, she can more reliably paralyze you with Thunder Wave, and Zebstrika now holds a Citrus Berry. Luckily, the expanded sequel dex gives you a few more counter options. Overall, Elesa can be an unpredictable menace, but at least in my experiences, Moxie Sandile is the way you wanna go. Not just for Elesa, but for the entirety of the games to be frank. Now we get to Kalos for the most intelligent electric type specialist, the inventor lighting up the world, Clemont. Clemont is known to be a genius inventor most of the time, and with the upcoming Legend ZA, we may just learn more about him. Clemont's only gym team is Emolga, Magneton, and Heliolisk. Yup. 2 gym leaders with Volt switching Emolga in a row, and unfortunately, the strategy just doesn't hold up as much here. The Kalos dex gives you way more options than the Unova dex, and with Clemont's higher level cap, you can even evolve those options. Plus, the Dry Skin ability effectively gives Heliolisk an extra weakness. Regardless, there's still some good strategies here like electric terrain, so maybe Clemont's genius doesn't entirely show in his gym battle, but if you get too overconfident, he may just turn the tide of the battle. I wonder how Lilia is doing. Next, we head to Alola to meet the shortest electric-type specialist, the electric trial captain, Sophocles. You meet Sophocles in the Hokulani Observatory, and the anime expanded on this by making him want to be an astronaut. But for Sophocles, we're mainly just gonna cover his USUM team. In Sun and Moon, you only battle Sophocles during the title defense, so you'll have your final team by the time you battle him. In the Ultra games, his team is Togedemaru, Magnezone, and Golem. An immediate weakness with this team are the 4x weaknesses to ground, meaning you can easily sweep this team if you have a ground move, but Sophocles at least still has some good strategies to use, with his Z move in particular being something you have to watch out for. Finally, we end in Paldea for the most influential electric type specialist, the supercharged streamer, Iono. In the Indigo Disc, Iono has a pretty funny talk with Grusha, in which he tells her how he likes her old content better, but let's see if she needs to make an apology video for her battling skills. Iono's gym battle team is Wattrel, Bellybolt, Luxray, and Miss Magius. Of all the gym leaders, Iono sets the best example of terrestrialization. Her electric Terra Miss Magius essentially becomes a pseudo-Electros, an electric type with the Levitate ability. The rest of her team is pretty good in their own right too. Bellybolt has coverage for ground types and Luxio has Intimidate. That being said, you'll have no shortage of good counter options. In particular, the peak of evolution, Water Absorb Clodsire. Overall, there's a good reason why Iono tends to give Nuzlockers trouble. And now, with every electric specialist covered, let's see who's the toughest. We start with the viewer-voted tournament. Round 1 was Lieutenant Surge versus Wattson, where Lieutenant Surge won by 72%. Then round 2 was a close battle where Elesa beat Volkner with 62%. Then Iono completely bodied Clemont in round 3 with 87% of the votes. Then we decided which poll Sophocles would go in. The semi-finals was Lieutenant Surge versus Elesa, where Surge didn't stand a chance. Sophocles was similarly bodied in the semi-finals round 2 by Iono, and so the finals was Elesa versus Iono, where Elesa won with 3/4 of the votes. And through a loser's bracket and various other polls, here is how you wonderful people ranked the electric type specialists. Clemont in 7th, Wattson in 6th, Volkner in 5th, Sophocles in 4th, Lieutenant Surge in 3rd, Iono in 2nd, and Elesa in 1st. But my ranking would be Clemont in 7th, Sophocles in 6th, Lieutenant Surge in 5th, Wattson in 4th, Iono in 3rd, Elesa in 2nd, and Volkner in 1st. And there you have it, folks. The toughest electric type specialist in their initial battles. What do you think about these rankings? Do you agree more with the viewer ranking or my ranking? Which electric specialist do you think is the toughest in their initial battles? Let me know in the comments below. And become a member if you're interested. It's only $2 a month. Have a nice day, you wonderful people. What if I was the electric type champion? My lead would be Raichu, one of my favorite electric type Pokemon. Next up would be Electros, giving me an immunity to ground. But if you do have a ground type, Lantern would be there. Afterwards would be Kilowattrel to be a glass cannon. Second to last is Rotom, dealing with your remaining ground types. Finally would be my ace, a shiny Electivire. The reason he would be shiny is to reference my first shiny Pokemon, a shiny Electabuzz I caught in Pokemon Platinum.